Imagine Jessica. She's a young girl who used to love reading, but now she's on her phone all the time. So her parents give her a very special book, Pacha's Pajamas. When Pacha goes to sleep, the plants and animals on her pajamas guide her on a dream adventure to learn more about herself and her connection to the natural world. I'll get to the demo in a second. We're still waiting for it to load. But my name is Dave Room. I'm the CEO of Z-Book and Balance Edutainment. But my most important identifier is Malia's papa. When Malia was 2 weeks old, her mother put her on my chest, and she just inched up there. And it was the sweetest feeling in the whole world. I knew at that moment that this was the most important relationship in my life. And a couple weeks later, it came to me that I needed to do everything that I could to make a better world and be able to tell her, look her in the eyes and say, I did everything that I could to make a better world. So here's the book. I've got the app open, and like I said, Pacha's Pajamas. Okay, so the sound is not working. Do you have the sound? So this is no sound? So basically you just hover this over, and normally you'll get sound. I guess it's not really happening right now. It's really actually even more amazing when we go from the black and white images in the book, and of course more amazing with sound, but it does exist. So let's go to the slide presentation. So, okay, well, just let me just say the first virtual reality was books, and it's interesting because science tells us that reading about an experience is treated pretty much the same way as actually experiencing it. The same parts of the brain are activated, and what that means is that books have co-evolved with us and helped us in many different ways, including unlocking our imagination, spurring and sparking our creativity. It helps us preserve knowledge and historical facts, history. In addition, it helps us learn and become more literate. Now, speaking of literacy, in 2008, the National Endowment of the Arts proclaimed that we had a new chapter of American literacy because after a sharp decline for several decades, they were seeing an uptake in the number of adults who were reading literature. But with all good things, this too had to come to an end. And as it turned out, when they were talking about it in 2009, it was actually starting a steep decline that has led them in 2016 to say that America is in a literacy recession. Now, I find it fascinating that the word for book in Latin is the same as the word for free. So book is related to freedom, book is related to liberty, literacy is related to liberty. And this is borne out by what the U.S. Department of Justice says. The link between academic failure, delinquency, violence, and crime is welded with reading failure. And that's borne out by the stats. 70% of inmates in jails cannot read at a basic level. And what's really disturbing is that if you can't read at a basic level by 4th grade, it's unlikely that you will ever read at a basic level, and that will make it very likely, regardless of what ethnic group you're in, for you to either end up in jail or end up on welfare. So it's bad outcomes. It's no surprise that parents want their kids to be able to read and to read more for fun. So 75% of U.S. parents of kids between 6 and 17, according to Scholastics, want their kids to read more for fun. And the sad reality is that kids are reading less. Frequent readers are going down. Infrequent readers are going up. And why is that? Well, mobile use is skyrocketing, as you can see here. So what to do? We've got a problem. Reading is really important. Kids need to start reading very young, and yet kids are reading less now. So what do we do? Well, what if the next evolution of books could make reading fun and learning enjoyable? If we want to do that, we need to take into account the new reality. And that is, as Thad McElroy says, people are becoming more attuned to audio and video stimuli than the written word. The written word is becoming quite flat for many people. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, it's all digital, of course, is multimedia, and as we can see here that there's a lot of different areas in which digital seems to have a great advantage over print, beyond even multimedia. You can see it right here. The nature of the communication with digital is bidirectional and circular, so you can get information back from the user. The content is dynamic. With a book, you have to wait till the next edition to get some changes. There's a high degree of interactivity with digital. With a book, pretty much, well, you can open it and look at the pages and maybe write some notes in the white space on the side, but pretty much there's not that much room for interactivity. But the print book is far from dead. And as you can see here, the number of units of print are far larger than ebook. Now, that's not to say that ebooks is not growing. They are, but nevertheless, most of the actual revenues are coming from print. A lot of the ebooks, almost half of them, are indie self-published, and a lot of those actually don't cost anything. They're given away for free or they're very cheap. So print is definitely dominating on the money side, is dominating on the unit side. Why is that? Well, does anyone here like holding a book or smelling a book? What about, does anyone have a bookcase in their house? Or a coffee table book? What about screen time? Do people think that books are a great alternative for screen time? Physical bookstores. Anyone go to a bookstore? Give a book as a gift? There's so many things about a print book that we love. So, in my estimation, the next evolution of the book needs to connect the physical and digital worlds. And I think it's very instructive to look at the evolution of the book. So we started out with clay tablets, and they were really heavy. So we then moved to scrolls, which started out with papyrus, then went to parchment, and then eventually paper scrolls. We, about 2,000 years ago, started using the codex, which is commonly thought of as the book. It's a hardcover book. That format has stayed with us. It really hasn't changed for 1,500 years. In 1930, the paperback came, but once again, it's basically the same format. And then in 1971, we had the first ebook. That was basically the same thing, but just put in it's a digital codex. But now, 2017, we are seeing the rise of augmented reality books. And it's very instructive to look at how costs and values have changed over time. So as you can see, from clay tablets to ebooks, the cost of producing books has gone down. But it will now go up with augmented reality because publishers and authors will have to create new content that goes on top of the book. So the cost of producing is going up. But now, the interesting thing is that the value from clay tablets to the codex went up really steeply. I mean, remember, the tablets were very, very heavy. But it really hasn't changed in value so much from the hardback book to the paper book to the ebook. I mean, they all have their pluses and minuses. What I'm really excited about is the possibility for augmented reality books to create a whole new layer of value beyond anything that we've seen before for books. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say, for marker-based augmented reality, books are going to be the killer app, or a killer app. Like I said, marker-based. I'm not talking about markerless stuff. Why? Well, books, there's so much engaging content, and there's so much more engaging content that we can layer on top of them. We don't throw away books. They're not packaging, so we can keep on using them and bringing on new digital content that's dynamic and new. The thing that's really beautiful about books and marker-based augmented reality in general is that it maintains contextual relevance. So the thing that you're looking at, where you're paying attention, is what you're getting information about. We're not guessing about what your interests are. The new apps, the new AR books, they're going to actually leverage the unique aspects of books. We know that a book has a cover. We know it has a collection of images and written words. We also know that it can have a table of contents. It has an order. It may have sections and chapters. We can leverage that information to make a great experience with AR books. Yeah, I think I'm going to just move on for time. In terms of the benefits, I see them in, well, actually, 3 major areas. One is profitability. It's going to open up the possibility of new revenue streams. There's going to be greater sales. There'll be more loyalty. Marketing can be more effective. 2, learning. Augmented reality books will help people learn tasks. It will help reading comprehension and expressive vocabulary. 3, experience, multimedia, interactive, rich experience that's going to motivate people to read. Now, there's a whole other section that I actually want to do more research on that I think would probably go on this, and I'm thinking health and development. Because there's something about physiologically of holding a book, and it's easier on your eyes as well, and it may be able to help people with learning disabilities like dyslexia or autism. It might be able to help motivate them and also help their cognitive processes by providing information in multiple ways. So I think there's going to be a whole nother set of benefits that we're going to see appear that isn't expressed right here. So what's possible? I see the book becoming an ever-evolving guided and curated pathway through the contextually relevant universe of the written word, multimedia, interactions, and experiences. So what I'm speaking to is the possibility as you're reading a book that you will basically be following the author's pathway through not only the written word on the page, but actually potentially linking to other assets, including other written materials, but also multimedia, so audio, video, web. We are also seeing the possibility of being able to have conversations within the context of a specific section of a book among people who are specifically interested in that, and mixed reality and virtual reality experiences within the context of reading. There are going to be many types of books augmented. I see a big future for catalogs. I see employee handbooks, textbooks, self-help books, nonfiction books, recipe books, user manuals, comic books, of course, children's books, and graphic novels. Those are just some of the different types of books. There's going to be other illustrated media, illustrated print media that will also be animated or made into augmented reality books. So where are books headed? Well, I think first of all, we need to get a better name for augmented reality books or AR books or augmented books. It's not really landing with the public at this point, but I don't know where that's going to be headed. I think it's going to probably be defined by the early adopters, which I see being the kids area, nonfiction. I think nonfiction, when they realize that this could be a competitive advantage, that they're going to jump on this. We're going to see catalogs and corporations doing user manuals and annual reports. We're going to do written word recognition, audio augmentation, bookshelf apps that have multiple books within an app, virtual reality and mixed reality experiences. So we're going to see the ability to put notes and highlighting, the read-alongs. There's going to be advertising, and there's going to be social opportunities. There's going to be a lot happening in this space. So there's a lot of players. I'm not going to really go through them too much, but just to note that most of them are in the fiction area, and there are a couple players that are working in the nonfiction area. the other thing to note is it's pretty much children's focused at the moment. So PopR is nonfiction children. Carleton is doing nonfiction and fictional children. Penguin is doing adult fiction and children's fiction as well, or at least young adult fiction. So I guess the one player that I neglected to mention is ZBook. So that's my company, and we are going to be providing a platform that will enable authors and publishers and corporations to animate their books, to make their books come alive. If you'd like to get a copy, bring a copy of an animated book home. I have copies of Pacha's Pajamas outside the door. I'm also at the booth S30 in the startup area. Would love to see you and talk to you about your projects. Thank you.